Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine it's 2026. You're sitting at the helm of a company, right at that crazy intersection of sports, media, and technology. What do you focus on? Today, we're going to dig into a fascinating piece that the author calls a love letter to these future leaders. So, we're going to put ourselves in three different chairs. In the first chair, you're the CEO of a sports league, or maybe a club. In the second, you're running a media company. Think a big time broadcaster or a streamer. And in the third, you're the CEO of a tech vendor selling your services into this whole ecosystem. Each one of you is facing a completely unique set of challenges. And I love how the author frames this. They're very clear. This isn't some manifesto telling people what to do. No, it's an honest thought exercise. It's really a way to stress test the big assumptions that the entire sports media world is built on. And that really brings us to the big question that drives this entire explainer. It sounds simple, right? But as you're about to see, the answers are radically different depending on which one of those three chairs you're sitting in. First up, the sports CEO. So you're leading a league, a federation, maybe a famous club. For you, the game plan for 2026 isn't about chasing the next shiny new thing. It's all about one word: sovereignty. The big idea here is to completely shift your focus. Instead of launching some new growth initiative, the author says you should run a sovereignty audit. First, you got to get brutally honest about what you actually control: your data, your distribution, your direct fan relationships. Second, you simplify everything so you can actually move fast. And third, and this is the tough one, you have to make a hard choice. Are you a competition organizer, a content brand, or a community platform? Because trying to be all three at once just leads to paralysis. And this all leads to a pretty radical move. You rewrite every single one of your media rights contracts. From now on, any partner that shows your games must give you auditable access to the fan data. Yeah, it means less cash in your pocket today, but think about the massive long-term leverage you're building. It's the ultimate test of whether you value immediate cash or long-term control. Okay, let's switch chairs. Now we're the CEO of a media company. And for you, man, the world looks completely different. It's not about owning the game. It's about owning the experience, because loyalty is the only currency that actually matters when content is absolutely everywhere. So your whole playbook gets flipped on its head. First, you stop celebrating how many eyeballs you get, and you start obsessing over why people stay. Second, you treat your sports rights like a Wall Street portfolio. Some are your blue chip, brand defining anchors, but others are just there for utility. Not everything has to be exclusive. And third, you have to realize that where your content lives, whether it's on YouTube, your own app, or some free channel, that's not just a logistics problem, it's part of the product design itself. And this is where we get to the really high stakes experiment. You take one of your biggest, most expensive sports properties and you put it everywhere, all at once. No artificial scarcity. Then you're forced to compete only on the experience you build around it: the commentary, the data, the community. It is a terrifyingly fast way to find out if your brand actually adds any value, or if you're just a gatekeeper. All right, let's step into our third and final role: the CEO of a tech company selling tools and services to the other two. For you, the challenge isn't about media rights or fan loyalty. It's about cutting through the noise. Your focus has to be on one thing: outcomes. So your three priorities are super sharp and direct. Number one, stop talking about your fancy tech stack and start talking about the business problem you're going to solve for your client in the next 6 months. Number two, make your products so easy to buy that the headache of benchmarking you against 5 competitors just isn't worth it. Trust becomes your new growth engine. And three, pick who you serve: a league, a broadcaster, a club, and say no to everyone else. Focus is a massive signal of strength. The big radical move here: it completely blows up the industry standard. You get rid of all your long-term contracts. Instead, you offer these quarterly outcome-based commitments. If you don't deliver real, measurable value, your client can just walk away. This forces your entire company to be obsessed with making your client successful, not just locking in a check. It separates the real deal products from the ones that are just, kind of stuck in. Okay, so we've seen the 3 different playbooks, but what's really going on here? What's the pattern? Well, the author argues that while these 3 CEOs are all playing in the same sandbox, each one is battling a very different and very powerful illusion about their own business. So here's the pattern, right? It's all laid out. Sports entities, they consistently overestimate how much control they really have over their fans and their own destiny. Media companies, they're banking everything on exclusivity. But in a world of infinite choice, that power is fading fast. And vendors, they always overestimate how hard it is for a client to just rip them out and switch to a competitor. Each strategy we've talked about is really designed to confront one of these core illusions head on. And all of this brings us to a fantastic final question from the source material. Now that we understand all the different pressures and illusions facing these leaders, which one of them has the absolute toughest job heading into 2026? Who's sitting in the hottest seat? After digging into all three of these incredibly complex roles, the author argues that one stands out, head and shoulders above the rest. There's a really clear winner, or maybe loser, depending on how you look at it. It's the media company CEO, no question. And the reason why is, well, it's both simple and deeply, deeply challenging for anyone in that job. They are trapped in what the author calls the compression zone. And honestly, that is the perfect way to describe it. Just getting squeezed from all sides with almost nowhere to go. So let's just break down why this job is so tough. The cost of buying sports rights just keeps ballooning, while your profit margins are shrinking. Your audience is scattering across a million different platforms, and customers are leaving faster than you can even build a strategy. And fundamentally, you're the classic middleman in a world that is doing everything it can to get rid of middlemen. Now think about the other two roles for a second. The sports CEO, for all their headaches, still controls the one thing nobody else has, the game itself. The ground underneath them is pretty stable. And the vendor CEO, well, they face brutal competition, but they've got options. They can pivot, change their pricing, find a new market. The rules of their game are visible. The media CEO has none of those advantages. They don't own the content, they don't own the pipes, and they don't really own the customer relationship, which leads to this incredible insight. The hardest job isn't the one with the most complexity. It's the one with the least strategic certainty. And that, right there, is the real point of this whole exercise. This love letter isn't just for a few CEOs in sports and media. It's a framework for all of us to confront some pretty uncomfortable truths. It forces us to ask, in my own work, in my own industry, what's the core illusion that we're all clinging to? What fundamental assumption are we overestimating? Because in a world that's changing this fast, the biggest risk isn't making the wrong move, it's operating under the wrong illusion.